raise some hell?
Well, the more lids we get done, the more that'll put a lot of pressure on. So I'm really
forgetting chemical. This is all going to be done via the LMA and us.
It's because we don't need. What it's saying is we don't need government units. We need private units will take care of it.
Yeah, we do.
You know, private units will take care of it, and that's.
I mean,
and the lids essentially are the same way. It's really it's almost really a public-private partnership. And so the lids can do a whole bunch, but the private groups can do it. You know, obviously you're showing that firsthand.
I'm telling you what.
What to do with the LMCD? Now that's a whole nother ball of twine with a lot of knots in it. And what do you do with that is a whole nother issue. But
harvesting. Right. So now there's all this BS going for AIS. There's not a damn thing being done. There's no money going into the lake. The public-private partnership, that is stuck in my craw ever since you were campaigning, to be quite honest with you. And this is my hood. I made a lot of money in this hood. And this
So they spent 150 grand on a study.
Well,
do we know what they
found?
found?
Yeah, if you want to read about, I don't know, 100 pages of bullshit, can you read the page?
How do we get in bed, or how does Denny get in bed with the LMA and get out of bed with the LMCD? Is that what you're asking?
But you think about it. The LMCD is non-existent with lids, right?
Right.
They're going the way of the buggy whip, I hope. So
I'm really counting on you guys getting that Crystal Bay lid rolling forward. So that's for sure. That's a big one. That's a big one.
Here's the thing to think about. I think we need to, you know, if they are unwilling to take proper action on cleaning up the lake and new ways of doing it with chemical treatments that have been proven, we need to start looking at what steps do we need to take to defund them and move the money where it would be put to proper use and effective.
The LMA has got the chemical thing figured out, and the banner has been LMA, Gabriel, and myself, totally funded this whole eradication of flowering rush. Gabe's connections at the DNR, Eric's connections at the DNR. They're starting to figure out that the LMA is the big animal on the lake for getting stuff done. And you know, we got to change our thinking, because if there's any way we could get funds to the LMA, I mean, you got to get in bed with the LMA. I think we got to figure out ways, and the LMA is absolutely the new gorilla on this lake as far as DNR permitting.
Restoring the quality of Lake Minnetonka. We're restoring the ecology of Lake Minnetonka. The Eurasian water milfoil, what they talk about percent occurrence, and this is where I can't address your question specifically. I can address it because I've looked at it for Grays Bay. Back in 2007, every time you threw out a sampler, every time you threw out a rake, you would pull that back. 86% of the time, you pulled back Eurasian water milfoil. Last year?
It's not relevant to Stubbs Bay, though, so, right?
How's that?
Because that's in Grays Bay.
Oh, but the systems are very similar. They're systems. They're all, you know, all these invasive plants have grown across the lake. I mean, you are dealing with very similar systems in all of these bays. So I can go, whether it be Grays Bay, Carmen's Bay, St. Albans Bay, they're all very similar. I think the difference is...
Support that?
Pardon?
You have data that support that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to see it. I'm not doubting. I'm not doubting. I'm just trying to think about this logically.
Okay, no, and I could. And I think as I get through this here, so that's an example of the Eurasian water milfoil. Now, in Stubbs Bay, Eurasian water milfoil is not the dominant invasive. The dominant invasive is curly pondweed. So that's the dominant. So when they're talking about the samples, they're talking about that. And I don't know this. I don't know how I can answer your question specifically without spending some time on it. But let me tell you. So here's the other thing that really comes up that is important, and why the University of Minnesota Invasive Species Research Center supports it, and why the DNR supports it. Because what we've seen is a resurgence in the number of native species growing back again in the lake where they didn't exist. We're seeing the emergent species coming back quite a bit. We're seeing,
There's so many things that are erroneous. Claire, to your point, you said, is the data there? The data's there. If you look at Carmen's Bay, you have the data. What their goals are, established goals to treat in their bay are less, what they have in Stubbs Bay is less than Carmen's Bay's goals.
Yeah,
They don't have a unique problem.
yeah, thank you, and I just want to interject, and then please continue, because I really value what you're sharing. To describe a post-treatment of eliminating 15% of an occurrence, that's cumulatively between the two invasive species, mentioning that this doesn't cover the non-invasive, it doesn't cover the native species, correct? Did I understand that
this
right?
does not cover the natives.
Yeah, so your Stubbs Bay isn't going to be sparkling because of this, because you still have everything else. You have all the native, right?
But we want the natives.
Yeah, so it just,
But if you look at the data, you'll see that the natives never come back.
No, that's absolutely false. That is absolutely false. In fact, there is great information. The University of Minnesota has done a fair amount of research in this matter, and the University of Minnesota research, and the researchers would be happy to tell you that once your once your invasive species are gone, and it's just common sense for God's sakes. Once your native species are gone.
Excuse me, I appreciate the passion. Let's.
I know, but I'd like to.
If we could just.
I could debate with
control
Mr.
of the
Beasley.
conversation a little bit, please. Thank you, gentlemen. I really and sincerely do appreciate the input, and I'm asking questions that the rest of the public might also have, and this is now your opportunity to share answers that might alleviate any concerns, and I would appreciate it if we could all just speak
No, and I'd be happy to answer them.
in kind tones.